Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order releases very soon. I can't wait to play it, and it's in part because of this stuff. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on gameranx, 10 things you need to know about Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Coming in at number 10, the first thing we need to talk about is the length of the game. When asked, the director Stig Asmussen said, "It's big, it's definitely not a 5-hour experience," which is a reference to Star Wars Battlefront if I have ever heard one. Now, if you played Star Wars Battlefront, you know that the campaign is not long enough. And even in its not long enough state, there is fluff in it. That doesn't mean it was terrible, it just definitely wasn't as good as it could have been. Honestly, the gameplay was good, Iden Verso's story was good, but why were we playing as Luke Skywalker swatting bugs in a cave? Jedi Fallen Order looks to be giving us a much larger experience in taking some degree of influence from both Dark Souls and even Metroid, and I'm pretty excited to see exactly how that shakes out. Coming in at number 9, is this a linear game or an open world game? And the answer really isn't yes, no, linear, open world. Jake was actually able to play the game, and his description kind of feels most consistent with what I've read anywhere. This game plays a lot like Dark Souls, and in a lot of ways is laid out like a lot of Metroids on a lot of different planets. You have a ship that you use to go to each planet. Each world is very big, and it has locked doors, blocked areas, and all of that type of Metroid-y stuff that you only progress through for various reasons. You do story stuff, you do backtracking, you get new powers through exploration, etc., etc. So, is it an open world? Not necessarily, but these are very big, well-thought-out levels that can kind of feel like you're playing an open world game. However, everything in these levels is significantly more deliberate. There will not be fast travel. You are intended to explore, backtrack, and do everything in the same way you might in a Metroid game. And there's a lot of planets. Some old favorites like Kashyyyk, as well as some completely new planets. Coming in at number 8, Dismemberment is something that people are kind of actively interested in on account. It is a Star Wars game, you do wield a lightsaber, and in Star Wars there's a lot of people that lose limbs. Well, they've actually decided not to go full on with it. With droids and creatures there will be dismemberment. With human enemies there won't be, and I have a feeling it's because they may have gotten a different rating if they included a bunch of beheadings in the game. For me, personally, this wasn't like a deciding factor. To some extent, I kind of think that it's basically fine either way. I actually think that the fact that the lightsaber leaves a mark basically on everything is much cooler than the idea of dismembering people. Some of the slashes I've seen with monsters where like a big glowing cut is on their side for a moment, I think that's way cooler, but it is worth noting that it seems like it's either something they thought was too much for the game or just didn't want to deal with whatever discussions it generated, but you can't dismember humans with a lightsaber. Moving on to number 7, this game will not let you choose between dark side and light side. I think this is a really interesting choice because this is something that they've really given to people a lot over the course of Force-oriented games. But there's a big thing about this game that I think makes it kind of necessary, which is that this game is entirely canon. This is regarded as part of the overarching Star Wars story, and as such, that type of a choice kind of messes up what the story actually is. I mean, you could give the choice of dark side, light side, and just make only one canon, but given the kind of depth it sounds like we're going to be seeing from this game, given the kind of level design and exploration which feels very deliberate, which is very laborious on the development side, it seems like it made a lot of sense for them to make the choice that the character is a light side character. Moving on to number 6, where you will not be able to choose light side or dark side, you will be able to make a lot of choices about your lightsaber in the customization elements of it. Now, I don't know if you're aware of it, but Disneyland has a lightsaber workshop, and that workshop specifically inspired the way Jedi Fallen Order allows you to customize the lightsaber. Most of what you can find to customize your lightsaber with will be found as a result of exploration, and oftentimes actually tied up within the story, according to producer Kasumi Shishido. That's good because I like it when stuff doesn't feel random. Even if it's not amazing, if it's just like a detail that kind of passes by without you thinking about it, it maintains immersion a lot better than just having these big glowing things with an arrow pointing at them, for instance. Now, that's not to say it's automatically bad, and I have a feeling that BD1, the droid, will probably have something to do with uncovering these things, but again, it's really an execution, and so far, it really looks like this game's handling stuff like that tastefully. Moving on to number 5, the story itself has got a lot going on. The focus, in fact, is very big on story, and the game had 6 narrative designers. One of those people is Chris Avallone, who was involved in writing Fallout 2, Knights of the Old Republic 2, Fallout New Vegas, Divinity Original Sin 2, Pillars of Eternity, and a basically endless list of games that you know about and are good. I'm actually extremely excited about the story in this game. I think that it's going to work out well. Something I think that's pretty interesting is that they aren't going to include a New Game Plus mode, which leads me to wonder about exactly what they're thinking about for replayability. Are they thinking that the exploration is hindered by a New Game Plus? Probably. I mean, over the course of a game, a Jedi becomes much more powerful than a Knight in any other random Dark Souls-y type game. A Jedi gradually unlocks the power of the universe. So I think maybe they just worry about having an overpowered character explore these levels at the start. I don't know. I think that it's probably going to work out, personally. Coming in at number 4 is the skill tree. We actually have specific information from gameranx' own Jake Baldino, who was able to play a demo. From what we're seeing, it's not an extensive skill tree. You'll probably have to make a few decisions as to what you're going to prioritize, but for the most part, it seems like just based on the speed of progression, you'll probably be able to get a fair amount of it done. It's divided into lightsaber abilities, force powers, and survivability. You don't really end up too short on points, so you'll probably be able to generally progress each. But if you wanted to heavily overpower one of those categories, you'd be more than able to. I think the replayability options that gives us might be pretty fun. We might see force-only playthroughs where we deliberately ignore the lightsaber, things like that. And I think that could be pretty interesting. Coming in at number 3 is the way the game handles difficulty, which it has 3 different difficulty modes, as well as a story-only mode, in case you don't want to deal with anything combat-related, things like that. The difficulty levels seem to mainly have an effect on how much an enemy is aggressive, how much it damages you, and how quickly they parry. According to the lead combat designer, Jason DeHarris, the Grandmaster difficulty will not change anything about the health bars of enemies. So it sounds like they're not doing like the absolute cheapest possible difficulty, but we'll really have to see how it shakes out. In theory, the things I described could be implemented very well or not. I don't really know. And obviously it doesn't matter at all for the people who are just playing for the story. So coming in at number 2, gameplay and combat. What's the deal? I've talked about this elsewhere in gameranx content, but the gameplay is not like Force Unleashed. Again, drawing on the playthrough that Jake Baldino did, as well as the general look of the game if you pay attention to footage of the combat system, it's more like Dark Souls. Now, for some people that's cool, for some it's not. I think it's cool. I'm actually pretty happy to have a Star Wars Souls-like. Jake's described it quite a bit like Sekiro, where the block parry button is really your friend. Fighting a stormtrooper is more or less about knowing their attack patterns and timing a parry. You can pretty much kill them with one strike. And then more powerful enemies, basically what you're doing is whittling down a block meter, getting them vulnerable and knocking them out with a strike, 2 strikes, 3 strikes, etc. What's cool is as you get more force powers, you can integrate like a force push or a force slow into your combat, as well as go back to planets, backtrack, check out new things, earn XP, get customization parts for your lightsaber, etc. And finally, number 1 is the ever-important release date and system requirements. On November 15th, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order will be coming to PC, PS4, and Xbox One. There are currently no plans for Nintendo Switch. There is a deluxe edition to pre-order that comes with some cool stuff, such as a Jedi Fallen Order art book. The digital version comes with your deluxe. You can buy a physical copy of it. Yes, it is a very nice looking book, but that is separate. Keep that in mind. There are some retail and console specific bundles GameStop is offering what they're calling the Black Series, which comes with a 6-inch figurine that comes with both the standard and deluxe edition at GameStop. There's a lot more information I'm not going to go into here. It's important to note that these pre-order bonuses cannot be earned through gameplay, but if you're buying the game on PC, I will give you some abbreviated requirements. You need 8 gigabytes of memory, they recommend 16. You need a Radeon HD 7750, GeForce GTX 650, but they obviously recommend the RX Vega 56 or the GTX 1070. You need 55 gigabytes of space and a 64-bit copy of Windows. Given the disparity between minimum and recommended isn't too huge, I'm going to say the game's probably going to perform well as long as you hit the minimum, which is always a nice thing to hear. But what do you think? Leave us a comment, let us know, and if you like this video, please click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week, and the best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription. So click subscribe, and don't forget to click the notification bell. As always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter at Falcon the Hero. We'll see you next time right here on GameRanx.